Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Well, I'm getting there, guys. I got the ports evened up pretty good, and LS heads, guys. And I'll probably will smooth these out a little bit more because I finished off with one of my paper rolls that's a little bit coarse. So, would it hurt it real bad? Not really, because it's not super coarse. It's just that it's not polished, and on the exhaust side, I like it smooth. So I got thinking about how big the ports looked, and I thought, man, I hope I didn't go too big. And then I put the gasket up there, and I thought, I don't think I really did go that big. What do you guys think? Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think that would be the wrong gasket. This is the aftermarket gasket, and if somebody was to try to port a pair of heads, and they say, well, I don't have any exhaust gaskets, so I'm going to buy some, and you bought the wrong gasket, or a gasket that came with your headers, basically. That's what these did. Come with a pair of headers. That would be a little extreme. And I'm going to show you how much extreme. I painted these so you guys could see the difference. And you can see how the stock gasket matches the port at the top here, how I wanted it. So, I mean, there's a little bit of slop here, guys, because it's not bolted, but cut me a little bit of slack. I'm just trying to make it a little bit of sense out of this for people that wouldn't know the difference. So that would be your stock gasket. And then you would have this gasket. And I want you to notice the difference of the size of that port would be how much more area you'd be trying to cut to match that. Well, the gasket dropped down some, guys. Hang on a second here, because I got two gaskets up here. This is kind of hard holding this up like this. So let me get it back where it was. So it would be like that, basically, if I got the holes lined up in the middle. So that's about how it would be. So bear with me, fellas. About like that. I know use a bolt, Terry. Well, I don't have one. But I'm doing this segment tonight because most guys would know the difference not to do that. That mess with cars that are in the racing, that have performance, that's done things in their life with a vehicle. But we have guys out here that are starting out and that might see one of us guys on YouTube porting heads and say, well, I see how they do it. They use the gasket and they just scribe a line, and then they they open the port up to that gasket line. Well, always use your common sense, fellas, because that would be way too much. So don't think because that gasket would match your header that port has to be that big, because that's the wrong way of thinking. Some guys would say, well, it's good to pour it max and have it the same size. Not on certain things. This port being smaller than the header wouldn't hurt that at all. It can help on a low compression engine. This kind of stuff is an advantage sometimes when it's a little bit smaller. And same with the intake. An intake, you leave an intake manifold a little bit smaller than the head. It's always better to do that than to port it and get it a little bit too big, and then it doesn't match up. But even if you do get it to match up exactly, that intake manifold being left a little smaller is always better. That's my opinion. But one of the things I wanted to mention was this. If you did get the wrong gasket, you don't ever want to just jump in there and say, well, I'll just use what I have with something like that, because you don't want to defeat your purpose. You don't want to hinder yourself. You want to advance yourself. When you pour the pair of heads, you want it to accommodate your engine. Otherwise, you're just going backwards. So just be patient, guys. If you get a pair of heads and you want to pour them, and now you're all gung-ho, and you don't have the right gasket, then don't do anything to them. That needs to be maxed up like that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, guys. I'm going to try to give you a better look, fellas. Sorry about the hand in the way. It's hard for me to show you stuff because the lighting, I put the phone up to the head to try to show you better, and then it takes away the light. And get this light over here. No, it doesn't really help. But I do have them pretty close to how I want them. And I'm pretty happy with what I see so far. When I look things over, I see a couple little areas that I have to still taper in. But that's what's hard for me, because if my friends stopped by here right now, he'd say, cuz, they're fine. And I never know when to call it quits. It seems like I just always got to look for a little bit extra straighter, smoother. But that's me, guys. I just don't want to leave anything on the table when I'm already pushing the envelope like that. If I've went through all this trouble to make these how they're supposed to be extreme, then I want them to be how I want them to be. So the LS heads are never going to come out like a diamond anyway. I mean, not in my book. Some guys, they can sit there and polish them up while they want to and make them pretty. And you can actually get these things to reflect back like a mirror if you want to polish these up like that. I'm going to smooth them out more, but I'm not going to a car show with them. They're going to be fine for the performance deal. And that's the only problem, guys. When you do as much as I do to these cylinder heads, the pretty part of it doesn't matter to me. I mean, that's always nice when somebody goes the extra mile and makes something really nice looking. Once they're on the car and the header's on, if that works all done completely right, that's all that matters. One thing I wanted to talk about, I've seen a few guys ask me a while back about the golf ball technique that they put on the intake. And I told the guy, I've told a couple guys, I left the comment on a forum that they had on. Anybody doesn't know, it's a golf ball type texture that they do on the intake, and they've proven it to increase flow, supposedly. And I could see it working, and then I could see it hindering what you're trying to do. And the reason I say that is because I have my own theories on stuff. Just like this right here, these runners are textured in spots, the intake runners, fellas, and then they're smooth in spots. And that's how I do stuff. But as far as that golf ball texture goes, I kind of lost my train of thought there. It goes like this here. The money they charge for that and the number you pick up isn't, to me, isn't worth the money. How many CFMs more that flowed? And here's the main issue, guys, with that. Anybody has an LS head, what do they look like when you take them off the car? When you pull that engine apart, how gummed up are they? So, the coarser that intake runner is, and unfortunately, LS engines pull a little bit of oil. At least all the ones I've seen, they pull some oil through the intake charge. And they're usually not the prettiest thing in the world in there. So how much of that texture would be left once it's gummed up with oil in the runner? And if it's real coarse, wouldn't it have tendency to fill up even more? It would catch whatever's coming in there. If you have some oil or something being sucked in that intake port, that's going to help it stay there. It has a little coarse place for the oil to get in there and stay there. That's my opinion about that. That's only my opinion. Somebody could say, well, I did it to my heads, and that's fine. If that works for somebody, that is a wonderful thing. I'm not debating it on that terms. If something works good for you, then it works for you. You're the one that knows your car. You're the one that knows what works. You're the one that knows if you're happy with how fast your car is or how much power it makes. So if you paid to have that done and you're happy with it, that's a good thing. If you paid to have that done, the golf texture, and you're unhappy with it, well, I'm sorry for you, because I hate to see people spend money and then not be satisfied with something. But I just thought I'd bring that up. I see a big deal made about that, and I don't want to recommend it to anybody. So you might have me say they don't like it. If you ask me that question and I tell you my answer, that's how I feel about it. If somebody else tells you that it's worth it, and you think it's worth it, and you have the money, and you want to try it, then that's up to you. You're not going to kill your head off by doing that. It's just, do I recommend it? No, I don't. For the money they charge for stuff like that, well, even if you picked up 20 CFM, how much more power are you going to make? Are you going to use that in your power band, or are you going to use that in your engine? Are you going to see it? Is it going to help your mid numbers? Is it going to help the way you drive the vehicle? Or would that $1,000 or whatever they charge for that buy you a roller cam or a big shot of nitrous or a good converter? That's my theory, fellas. So I'm always cost effective when it comes to this kind of stuff. If you say, well, I have everything like that and I want to still do that, hey, that's what makes the world go around. And that's fine and dandy. There's no argument from me. and I hope it works out for anybody that tries it or that does it. But when people ask me if is it worth doing, well, not in my pocketbook, fellas. Not when it be one of them deals where I have to see a big difference for something to pay that much money. And somebody might say, well, I'm keeping the car and I pull the heads apart every so many months or every year, it gets freshened up. Well, that's a better thing. But on a street car, it gets driven all the time. That's another point I wanted to make about that. It depends on what you're doing with the vehicle. It depends how you maintain it. If you take the heads apart and clean them out and keep the texture there, that's another thing. So it's all common sense, guys. But with that, I'm going to thank you fellas for checking out what I'm up to. And I'm going to wrap this up. And I want to thank you guys for always taking your time to see what I'm up to. So I hope that kind of answered that question to a few people that asked me that a while back. I kept forgetting to address that. And it's been months since somebody asked me that. It might even be 4 or 5 months. I'm sorry about that. So I don't never want to ignore anybody's question about that. You have to remember, fellas, when I tell you something, a lot of times it's opinion. So people have different opinion. Just because one guy has something that runs good doesn't mean he's right about everything he says. And I never want to come off like that. I just give my opinion and what works, and I share it with you fellas so you guys can do the same or maybe help you guys that need a little help. That's why I do this segment. But before I get babbling too much again, fellas, I'm going to cut this off and shut it down for the night because I'm a little tired. You guys have a good night, and thanks again. I appreciate all you. Take care.